It was one of those days that seemed to drag endlessly, each minute stretching into an eternity of frustration and unease. I sat at my desk, the mountain of paperwork in front of me a testament to the chaos of the day. My mind was a whirl of half-finished tasks and missed deadlines, a cacophony of stress that refused to quiet. As I rubbed my temples, trying in vain to ease the throbbing headache that had taken root, my thoughts kept drifting to the evening ahead. The holiday party at Tracy's firm loomed over me like a dark cloud, its presence a constant source of anxiety. I knew I should be looking forward to it, an opportunity to unwind and celebrate, but something about it felt off. The thought of mingling with Tracy's colleagues, high-profile lawyers with their polished smiles and sharp suits, filled me with a sense of dread. The break room offered no respite, just more strained conversations with coworkers who couldn't understand my reluctance. "Big plans tonight?" one had asked, and I'd forced a smile, replying with a vague, "Yeah, my wife's firm's party." The day dragged on, each glance at the clock reminding me that the dreaded event was drawing nearer. By the time I finally packed up to leave, a deep sigh escaped my lips, the weight of the day pressing heavily on my shoulders. As I stepped out of the office, the cold air outside did little to clear the fog of unease that clouded my thoughts. Something about tonight didn't feel right, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the feeling that my life was about to change in ways I couldn't yet comprehend. The evening chill bit at my skin as I stood outside the towering high-rise, its sleek modern lines a stark contrast to the simplicity of my everyday world. I adjusted my tie, trying to summon some semblance of confidence before stepping into the opulent lobby. The air inside was warm, festive music and chatter filling the space, but it did little to soothe my growing discomfort. Tracy's laughter cut through the noise, and I spotted her amidst a group of well-dressed colleagues, her smile radiant and effortless. As soon as she saw me, she waved me over, her eyes sparkling with the joy of the season. "Dusty, there you are. Come, meet everyone," she called, her voice brimming with enthusiasm. I joined the group, my awkwardness palpable as I tried to navigate the conversation. The men were all impeccably dressed, their confidence apparent in their easy banter and polished manners. "So, Dusty, what do you do?" one of them asked, his tone polite but disinterested. "I work in logistics," I replied, forcing a smile. "It's not as exciting as law, I'm afraid." The conversation quickly shifted away from me, leaving me feeling even more isolated. I sipped my drink, trying to find comfort in its warmth, but the sensation of not belonging only grew stronger. The high-profile lawyer hosting the party, a man named Fielding, made his rounds, his presence commanding and charismatic. Every interaction seemed effortless for him, a stark reminder of the gulf between their world and mine. As Tracy moved through the crowd, her ease and familiarity with these people starkly contrasted my own discomfort. I watched her, feeling a pang of something I couldn't quite place. Envy, perhaps, or maybe a deeper sense of disconnection. Surrounded by Tracy's successful peers, I felt like an imposter, a shadow on the fringes of a world I could never fully understand or be a part of. The uneasy feeling from earlier in the day tightened its grip on my chest, a premonition that tonight would be more than just a simple holiday gathering. The sense that something was about to shift, irrevocably, lingered in the back of my mind, refusing to be ignored. As I wandered through the lavishly decorated rooms, my discomfort gnawing at me, I found myself in a quieter part of the sprawling apartment. The noise of the party seemed to fade, replaced by the soft hum of ambient music and the low murmur of conversations. My eyes roamed the walls, admiring the collection of art that adorned them, abstracts, landscapes, and portraits, each piece more stunning than the last. Then I turned a corner, and my breath caught in my throat. There, prominently displayed, was a nude painting. But it wasn't just any painting. The woman in the painting bore an uncanny resemblance to Tracy. Her features, her posture, even the delicate curve of her back. My heart pounded in my chest as I stared, the world around me blurring into insignificance. I felt a rush of emotions, shock, confusion, and a burgeoning sense of betrayal. My mind raced, trying to process the implications. I tore my eyes away from the painting and searched the room until I found Tracy, still mingling effortlessly with her colleagues. Determined to get answers, I made my way to her, my steps heavy with the weight of what I'd seen. "Tracy," I said, my voice low and tense. "Can we talk for a moment?" She looked at me, puzzled by my tone, but obliging. We moved to a more secluded corner, away from prying eyes and curious ears. "What's wrong, Dusty?" she asked, concern knitting her brows. I struggled to find the words, my emotions churning. "That painting," I began, pointing vaguely in its direction. "The one of the nude woman. It looks just like you." For a moment, there was a flicker of something in her eyes. Fear, maybe, or guilt. But it was gone almost as quickly as it appeared. She glanced away, her fingers nervously twisting the stem of her wineglass. "It's just a coincidence," she said, her voice a little too calm, too rehearsed. "You're reading too much into it." But I knew her too well. There was something she wasn't telling me. My gaze bore into her, seeking the truth she was trying to hide. "Tracy, please," I urged, my voice breaking slightly. "I need to know." She sighed, the tension in her shoulders visible. "Fine," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "It is me, Fielding. He commissioned it." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. My mind reeled, trying to comprehend what she was saying. "Why? Why would he do that?" I asked, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and hurt. She looked away, unable to meet my eyes. "We've been involved," she admitted, her voice thick with shame. "It started a few months ago. I never meant for you to find out like this." The ground seemed to fall away beneath me. The woman I loved, the life we had built together, it all felt like a cruel illusion. As the weight of her words settled in, a cold, hard realization began to form. This was no longer just a holiday party. It was the beginning of the end of everything I thought I knew. I stood there, stunned and reeling from Tracy's confession, trying to make sense of the betrayal that had just been laid bare. Before I could fully process it, Fielding appeared, his smug expression and confident stride only adding fuel to the fire of my anger. He approached us, his presence imposing and unwelcome, as if he owned the very ground he walked on. "Ah, Dusty," he said smoothly, his voice dripping with false camaraderie. "I see Tracy has told you about our little arrangement." I clenched my fists, struggling to keep my composure. "Arrangement? Is that what you call it?" I spat, my voice trembling with a mixture of fury and pain. Fielding's smile widened, a predator's grin. "Yes, Dusty, that's exactly what I call it. And I'd advise you to keep your emotions in check. This can get very messy, very quickly." Tracy looked down, her guilt palpable, but she said nothing. Fielding continued, his tone casual, almost as if discussing business. "You see, Dusty, Tracy and I have something special, something that goes beyond the confines of your mundane marriage. And while I regret that you found out this way, it doesn't have to be the end of the world." I glared at him, my mind racing. "What are you talking about?" I demanded, my voice a harsh whisper. Fielding's expression hardened, and he leaned in closer. "I'm talking about keeping this quiet," he said, his voice low and menacing. "You see, Dusty, if you try to cause trouble, if you try to expose our relationship, there will be consequences." He paused, letting the threat hang in the air. "I'm a high-profile lawyer with connections, Dusty. It wouldn't take much to make your life very difficult. Imagine your boss getting a call, or perhaps some damning evidence showing up that puts your job in jeopardy, not to mention the social fallout. Think about your friends, your family, your reputation." Tracy finally spoke, her voice a broken whisper. "Dusty, please. I never wanted this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you." I turned to her, my eyes filled with pain. "And yet, here we are," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You've made your choices, and now I'm left to pick up the pieces." Fielding stepped back, his demeanor once again calm and controlled. "So, Dusty, here's the deal. You keep quiet, you don't interfere, and life goes on. No one has to know about our arrangement. But if you push, if you try to expose us, I promise you, you'll regret it." The weight of his words settled over me like a dark cloud, the threat clear and unmistakable. I felt trapped, cornered by the very people I should have been able to trust. The realization that my life had been turned upside down in a matter of moments was almost too much to bear. But as I looked at Tracy, her eyes filled with guilt and regret, I knew that I couldn't just let this go. No matter the cost, I had to find a way out of this nightmare, even if it meant facing the full force of Fielding's wrath. After Fielding's smug departure, Tracy and I were left standing in the corner of the room, the noise of the party a distant murmur compared to the storm raging inside me. Tracy avoided my gaze, her face pale and drawn. The festive atmosphere around us felt like a cruel joke, mocking the turmoil in our lives. "How long, Tracy?" I asked, my voice a hollow whisper. "How long has this been going on?" She hesitated, her eyes glistening with tears. "A few months," she finally admitted, her voice trembling. "It started as just innocent conversations, working late, you know how it is. But then, it became more." My chest tightened, the betrayal cutting deeper with each word. "Why, Tracy? Why would you do this to us? To our family?" Tracy's shoulders slumped, and she looked away, unable to meet my eyes. "I don't know, Dusty," she said, her voice breaking. "Fielding, he made me feel special, important, like I mattered in a way I hadn't felt in a long time." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. "So I didn't make you feel important? I didn't matter?" "No, it's not that," she replied quickly, shaking her head. "You do matter, Dusty, but our lives, they've become so routine, so predictable. I felt like I was just going through the motions, losing a part of myself in the process. Fielding made me feel alive again." I stared at her, struggling to reconcile the woman before me with the one I thought I knew. "And what about me? What about our sons? Did you even think about them while you were off feeling alive?" Tracy's tears spilled over, and she finally looked at me, her eyes pleading. "I did, Dusty. Every single day. I hate myself for what I've done. I hate that I've hurt you. But I felt trapped, suffocated by the life we built. I didn't know how to escape." My anger flared, a sharp contrast to the pain. "So, your escape was to betray me? To betray our family? Do you even hear yourself, Tracy? You've destroyed everything." She reached out, her fingers brushing against my arm, but I pulled away, the touch burning like a brand. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice broken. "I never wanted this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you." I took a deep breath, trying to control the whirlwind of emotions inside me. "Sorry isn't enough, Tracy. You've shattered my trust, my faith in you. How am I supposed to move past this? How am I supposed to ever trust you again?" She sobbed openly now, her hands trembling. "I don't know, Dusty. I don't know if you can. But I need you to know that I still love you. That despite everything, I never stopped loving you." Her words hung in the air, a bitter reminder of the complexities of love and betrayal. As I looked at her, the woman I had shared my life with, I realized that our relationship had been irrevocably changed. The rift between us was deep, and I didn't know if it could ever be bridged. The holiday party continued around us, the laughter and music a cruel backdrop to our personal tragedy. And as the night wore on, I knew that this was only the beginning of a long, painful journey, one that would test the very fabric of our lives and force us to confront the darkest parts of ourselves. The ride home from the party was silent, the tension in the car so thick it was suffocating. Tracy and I didn't exchange a single word, each lost in our own thoughts. When we finally pulled into the driveway, the house loomed before us, its familiarity now tainted by the events of the evening. We entered, and Tracy went straight to the kitchen, pouring herself a glass of water with shaking hands. I followed, the anger and hurt boiling over. "We need to talk," I said, my voice tight. Tracy nodded, her eyes red and swollen from crying. "Let's get the boys first," she whispered. We found our sons, Luke and Ben, in the living room, engrossed in their own world. Their laughter and carefree demeanor were a stark contrast to the storm brewing between their parents. I cleared my throat and they looked up, sensing the gravity of the situation. "Can you guys come to the kitchen? We need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. They followed us, curiosity and concern etched on their faces. We all sat around the kitchen table, the air heavy with unspoken words. "Dad, what's going on?" Luke asked, his voice wavering. I took a deep breath, struggling to find the right words. "Your mom and we have something difficult to tell you," I began, glancing at Tracy. "There have been issues between us, things that have happened that are going to change our family." Tracy took over, her voice trembling. "I made a mistake, a big mistake. I got involved with someone else. I betrayed your father, and I am so sorry for the pain I've caused." The boys' faces registered shock and confusion. Ben, the younger of the two, looked particularly bewildered. "What do you mean, Mom?" he asked, his voice small. Tracy looked down, unable to meet their eyes. "I had an affair," she admitted. "I know it's hard to understand, but it's the truth." The room fell silent, the weight of her confession sinking in. Luke's face twisted in anger. "How could you do that?" he shouted, his voice cracking. "How could you hurt Dad like that? How could you hurt us?" Tracy sobbed, her shoulders shaking. "I'm so sorry," she repeated. "I never wanted to hurt any of you." I placed a hand on Luke's shoulder, trying to offer some semblance of comfort. "This is hard for all of us," I said, my voice steady but filled with emotion. "But we need to figure out how to move forward." Ben's eyes filled with tears. "Are you getting divorced?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Tracy and I exchanged a glance, the unspoken truth hanging in the air. "Yes," I finally said, my voice breaking. "We've decided that it's the best thing for all of us. It's not what any of us wanted, but it's what we need to do." The boys looked devastated, their world crumbling around them. The pain in their eyes mirrored my own, and I felt a deep sense of failure as a father and husband. We spent the rest of the night talking, crying, and trying to come to terms with the new reality of our lives. In the days and weeks that followed, the house became a battlefield of emotions. The legal process of the divorce was grueling, each step a reminder of the life that was slipping away. Tracy moved out, the silence of her absence louder than any argument we had ever had. The boys struggled to adjust, their anger and sadness manifesting in different ways. As the months passed, the initial shock gave way to a new kind of normal. We learned to navigate the pain, to find a way forward even when the past still haunted us. The divorce was finalized, a stark legal acknowledgement of the end of our marriage. Through it all, I held on to the hope that time would heal the wounds, that we could find a way to rebuild our lives. The journey was long and fraught with challenges, but it was a path we had no choice but to walk. And in the end, I hoped that we would emerge stronger, with a deeper understanding of ourselves and the resilience to face whatever came next. The months following the divorce were some of the hardest I had ever faced. The house, once filled with laughter and warmth, now felt empty and cold. Every room held memories of a life that was no longer mine, and I found myself constantly battling a sense of loss and failure. The boys were a constant reminder of what had been, their pain mirroring my own as they adjusted to the new reality of living between two homes. I threw myself into work, trying to fill the void left by Tracy's betrayal and the dissolution of our marriage. The days were long and the nights even longer, each one a reminder of the trust that had been shattered. Friends and family offered support, but it was hard to let anyone in. I had been burned, and the fear of being hurt again was a constant companion. It was during this time that I met Kristen. She was a friend of a colleague, introduced to me at a casual dinner party. Her kindness and genuine interest in others were immediately apparent, and there was something about her that drew me in. At first, I was hesitant to open up, still nursing the wounds from my past. But Kristen was patient, understanding, and slowly, I found myself letting my guard down. Our relationship developed gradually, built on a foundation of trust and mutual respect. Kristen understood my pain and never pushed me to move faster than I was comfortable with. She had her own experiences with heartache, and that shared understanding created a bond between us. We spent countless hours talking, sharing our hopes and fears, and slowly, the walls I had built around myself began to crumble. The boys were wary at first, unsure about this new person in our lives. But Kristen made a genuine effort to connect with them, never trying to replace Tracy, but rather finding her own place in their hearts. She attended their soccer games, helped with school projects, and slowly, they began to accept her presence. Her patience and kindness won them over, and I could see the positive impact she had on them. As time went on, Kristen and I grew closer. She brought a sense of joy and lightness back into my life, something I hadn't felt in a long time. We shared laughter, dreams, and slowly, I began to see a future that included her. The fear of being hurt again still lingered, but with Kristen it seemed possible to overcome it. News of Fielding's attack spread like wildfire, shocking everyone who knew him. It happened late one night, in the parking garage of his office building. He had stayed late, as he often did, reveling in the power and control he wielded over his domain. As he made his way to his car, an unknown assailant emerged from the shadows, striking with swift and brutal precision. Fielding was found unconscious by a security guard, bloodied and barely breathing. When I heard the news, my initial reaction was a mix of shock and disbelief. Despite everything that had happened, I never wished harm upon him. But as the details emerged, a darker part of me couldn't help but feel a grim sense of justice. Fielding had hurt many people, not just me. He had built his career on manipulation and deceit, leaving a trail of broken lives in his wake. Perhaps this was the universe's way of evening the score. Tracy was devastated when she heard about the attack. Despite their affair and the resulting fallout, a part of her still cared for him. She visited him in the hospital, but her presence seemed to do little to ease his pain. Fielding was a shell of his former self, his once sharp and commanding presence now reduced to vulnerability and fear. The police investigated the attack, but there were no leads. Fielding had made many enemies over the years, and it was impossible to pinpoint who might have wanted revenge. The list of suspects was long, and the motives varied. For me, Fielding's downfall was a complicated mix of emotions. I couldn't forget the pain he had caused, but I also couldn't find it in myself to celebrate his suffering. It was a stark reminder of how quickly life could change, how the consequences of our actions could come back to haunt us in the most unexpected ways. Kristen was my rock during this time. She helped me navigate the complex emotions and kept me grounded. "You didn't cause this, Dusty," she would remind me whenever I seemed lost in thought. "He's paying for his own sins." Despite her reassurances, the incident left a mark on me. It was a harsh lesson in the dangers of letting anger and bitterness consume you. Fielding had been consumed by his own hubris, and in the end, it led to his downfall. As the weeks turned into months, Fielding's condition slowly improved, but he was never the same. He became reclusive, withdrawing from the public eye and his once prestigious career. Tracy tried to support him, but their relationship had been irrevocably damaged. She eventually distanced herself, recognizing that their affair had been built on a foundation of lies and manipulation. Life moved on, and with time, the memories of Fielding's attack began to fade. For me, it was a reminder of the importance of integrity and the destructive power of deceit. I focused on rebuilding my life, cherishing the new relationships I had formed and the lessons I had learned. Kristen and I grew stronger together, our bond deepened by the trials we had faced. The boys flourished, their resilience a testament to the human spirit's capacity to heal. Fielding's fate served as a somber backdrop to my journey of recovery and growth. It was a harsh reminder that actions have consequences and that the pursuit of power and control can lead to one's own undoing. As I looked forward to the future with Kristen and our blended family, I knew that, despite the scars of the past, we had the strength to build a life grounded in love, trust, and mutual respect. As the dust settled from Fielding's attack, life gradually found its rhythm again. The immediate shock of the incident began to wane, but the underlying currents of tension and distrust remained. Fielding's reclusive behavior became a topic of speculation in legal circles and among the media, though the details of his attack were kept mostly under wraps. His career, once the pinnacle of legal success, was now marred by scandal and mystery. Tracy, meanwhile, faced her own internal battle. Despite her efforts to support Fielding during his recovery, the guilt and betrayal she felt began to weigh heavily on her. The end of our marriage had left scars on both of us, but her involvement with Fielding had deepened her own wounds. She began to withdraw from social circles, seeking solace in therapy, and attempting to rebuild her life away from the spotlight. Her relationship with her children became strained as they struggled to understand the complexities of her actions and the impact they had on their lives. For me, the experience was both a dark chapter and a painful but necessary lesson. Fielding's attack had stirred up a storm of emotions: anger, sadness, and a profound sense of justice. Yet it also served as a reminder of the importance of moving forward, of not letting past grievances dictate the course of my future. I channeled my energy into focusing on what truly mattered: my family and my budding relationship with Kristen. Kristen and I continued to grow closer, our relationship becoming a sanctuary of stability and love amidst the chaos. Her unwavering support helped me navigate the lingering doubts and fears that clung to me from the past. Together we worked on blending our lives, finding joy in the simple moments and building a future that was both hopeful and grounded. The boys adapted to their new normal, their resilience a constant source of inspiration. They became more open to Kristen, slowly accepting her as a positive force in their lives. Her involvement in their activities and her genuine care helped bridge the gap that had once seemed insurmountable. As time passed, the scars of the past began to heal, though they never fully faded. The process of moving on was neither linear nor easy, but it was a journey of rediscovery and growth. Fielding's presence in our lives became a distant memory, a cautionary tale rather than an ongoing concern. The focus shifted to building a life that was fulfilling and true to the values we held dear. One sunny afternoon, as Kristen and I walked hand in hand through a park, I reflected on the journey that had brought us to this point. The pain of the past had shaped us, but it had not defined us. Instead, it had forged a path toward a future where love, trust, and understanding were at the forefront. Our wedding was a celebration of this new chapter, a testament to our resilience and commitment. Surrounded by friends and family, we exchanged vows that spoke to our shared journey and the strength we had found in each other. It was a joyous occasion, marking not just our union, but the beginning of a life built on the lessons learned from past hardships. As we danced together, I looked around at the faces of those who had supported us through our trials. The boys, now more at ease and accepting, danced with us, their laughter mingling with the music. Kristen's smile was a beacon of hope and love, a reminder of how far we had come. Fielding's story, though a part of our past, had become a distant echo. It was a reminder of the complex interplay of human emotions and actions, but it no longer held the power to dictate our lives. Instead, we embraced the present, cherishing the new beginnings, and the promise of a future built on the strength and love we had cultivated together.